The security guard asked for ID. My dad presented his retiree card. "She's with me," he told the guard. "Only a civilian." I gave the guard a card bearing the presidential seal. The reader flashed Yankee White Priority 1. The guard lifted the red phone. "Open the VIP lane. Now." My dad stared at me, stunned. Imagine your own father introducing you as just a civilian when you're standing right there in your full uniform, a major in the Air Force. It happened to me more times than I can count. But one day, at a highly restricted federal checkpoint, with the guards watching and my father smugly waving me off as his civilian daughter, everything changed. And what happened next? Even I didn't see it coming. My name is Sonia Richard, and I'm 33 years old. I grew up in a quiet military family, but I built a career I never really bragged about. Not even when I earned a level of security clearance most people never even hear of. For years, I just supported my dad. I stood by him, let him believe I was still just his kid who worked on base. But that day at the checkpoint, as the guards scanned my badge, a line was drawn in the sand that completely reshaped who I was. The guard at the gate asked for IDs. My dad, ever the proud retired senior master sergeant, handed over his old card with a polite smile. "She's with me," he said, gesturing vaguely in my direction. "Just a civilian." I felt that familiar pang, that little internal sigh I'd grown so used to. Then, I handed the guard my identification. The one with the presidential seal, issued for my specific assignment. The scanner paused. It hesitated for what felt like an eternity, then flashed a status in bold red, Yankee White Priority 1. The guard's entire posture shifted. Immediately, he picked up the red phone, and with a quiet click, the VIP lane began to open. My father stiffened beside me, confusion clouding his face. "What's going on?" he mumbled. The guard, still slightly shell-shocked, handed my card back with both hands, palms open, respectful. "Major, ma'am. Your clearance is active. Let me escort you." But I'm getting ahead of myself, aren't I? Let me back up, because to truly understand that moment, you need to know how we got there. The signs were always there, you know? Little things, easy to miss if you weren't looking. But I was looking. I'd been looking for years. My dad retired from the Air Force after 22 years as a senior master sergeant, an E8. That's not nothing. It's a rank that demands dedication, skill, and time. He was incredibly proud of it, and he should have been. He served well. He led airmen. He knew the system inside and out. Growing up, I memorized his ribbons before I knew my multiplication tables. I could tell the difference between a meritorious service medal and a commendation medal from across the room. He patiently explained what each one meant, the way he explained everything back then. He loved the Air Force, and I loved it through him. So, when I told him I wanted to commission, he supported me. He helped me with my officer training school application, drove me to medical appointments. He was there when I raised my right hand and swore the oath for the first time. But something shifted that day. I remember his hug after the ceremony, and then he said, "Well, now you outrank me." Technically. It was a joke, right? We both laughed. But beneath the joke was something else. Something unspoken. And over time, that unspoken thing grew. I started as a second lieutenant, an O1, at 23. Fresh, eager, utterly overwhelmed. I called him often in those first months, desperate for his advice. He'd been enlisted, sure, but he knew how things worked. He knew the culture, the unwritten rules, how rank and responsibility intersected. But when I'd ask him about navigating the chaos of my first assignment, he'd deflect. "You're an officer now," he'd say. "You've got your own lane." At first, I thought he was just encouraging independence, telling me to trust my training. But then it happened again. And again. When I made first lieutenant at 25, I called him to share the news. He congratulated me, but the conversation was so brief. He didn't ask about my new duties, where I'd be stationed. He just changed the subject. To his garden, his VA appointments, the weather. By the time I pinned on captain at 28, I'd stopped expecting him to ask. And when I was selected for major at 30, that rank where you start carrying real weight, real responsibility, he said, "That's great, honey. Your mom would be proud." My mom passed when I was 19, before I joined. Bringing her up felt like a way to fill space, to acknowledge something without actually engaging with me. I didn't push. I told myself it wasn't personal. Maybe he was just getting older. Maybe he'd said everything he needed to say about the military during his own career. Maybe he didn't want to relive it through mine. But then came the small moments. The casual comments. The cutting assumptions. During a holiday visit, I was home for Thanksgiving. My aunt asked what I'd been working on lately. Before I could even open my mouth, my dad jumped in. "Oh, she pushes papers," he said with a grin. "Probably keeps the coffee warm for the real officers." Everyone laughed. I smiled, but I didn't correct him. The truth? I just rotated off a deployment to an undisclosed location, managing logistics for high-level operations. 6 months coordinating movements I couldn't discuss, solving problems most people would never know existed. But I didn't say that. I let the joke land. Another time, we went to lunch near base. A small diner that offered a military discount. My dad handed over his retired ID card at the register, proud as always. The cashier rang it up, then looked at me. "Are you military, too?" Before I could answer, my dad waved her off. "She's just a civilian today. Didn't bring her uniform." But I was wearing my uniform. My blues. Gold oak leaves, major, clearly visible on my shoulders. The cashier looked confused, but didn't press. I paid full price. Afterward, in the car, I said, "Dad, I was in uniform." He just shrugged. "I know. But you don't need to make a thing of it every time." I didn't respond. I just stared out the window, trying to understand what he meant. Did he think I was showing off? Did he think wearing my rank was some kind of performance? Or was it something deeper? I started noticing he never really asked what I did. Not once. When I mentioned a new assignment, he'd nod and say, "Sounds important." When I referenced a challenge, "You'll figure it out." When I tried to share a success, an award, a milestone, he'd say, "That's great," and then move on. It wasn't hostility. It was an absence. A refusal to engage with the reality of who I'd become. And the worst part? He kept introducing me the same way. "This is my daughter. She works on base. She's in the Air Force. Nothing fancy. Nothing fancy." I was a major. I held a clearance most people didn't even know existed. I'd been entrusted with responsibilities that required years of vetting, evaluation, and trust. I'd earned my position through performance, not proximity. But to him, I was still figuring things out. He'd say it to relatives, to his friends, to strangers at the VA, "She's young, still learning the ropes." I was 33. I'd been in the service for more than a decade. The tension wasn't loud. It wasn't explosive. It was steady, cumulative. A slow, agonizing erosion of recognition. And then he asked me to take him onto a restricted base. "There's an event," he said. "Retirement ceremony for an old buddy of mine. I'd like to be there." "Sure," I said. "I can get you on." He smiled. "Good. They'll wave us through. I've still got my credentials." I didn't correct him. I didn't explain how it actually worked. I just said I'd meet him at the gate at 1400 hours. The day came. We drove separately. I arrived first, parked, and waited by the visitor control center. He pulled up a few minutes later, confident, relaxed. "Ready?" he asked. "Ready." We walked toward the entry checkpoint together. The security barrier was clearly marked: armed personnel, vehicle inspection lanes, strict protocol. SSGT Elias Ward was manning the gate. Young. Professional. Sharp. He stepped forward as we approached. My dad, with that same old pride he always carried, said, "She's with me." "Just a civilian." I said nothing. I reached into my pocket and handed SSGT Ward my identification card. The card with the presidential seal. SSGT Ward took the card, glanced at it, then ran it through the scanner. For a moment, everything was still routine. Then the scanner beeped. The screen flashed red. Yankee White Priority 1. Ward's eyes widened just slightly enough that I noticed. He straightened his posture, shifted his weight, and picked up the red phone mounted on the security podium. He didn't look at my dad. He looked at me. "Open the VIP lane." There was a brief pause on the other end, then I heard the mechanical grind of the reinforced barrier sliding open. The lane reserved for flag officers, senior officials, and personnel with executive-level clearances. My dad turned to me, confusion flashing across his face. "What's going on?" SSGT Ward handed my card back with both hands, palms open. "The way you handle something valuable, something that commands respect." "Major, ma'am," he said, voice steady but formal. "Your clearance is active. I'll need to escort you through personally." My dad's mouth opened, but no sound came out. I took my card, slipped it back into my pocket, and met Ward's eyes. "Thank you, Staff Sergeant." He gestured toward the VIP lane. "Right this way, ma'am." I walked forward. My dad followed, silent, stiff. I could feel the weight of his stare on the back of my neck, but I didn't turn around. As we passed the line of waiting vehicles, civilians, contractors, lower clearance personnel, I heard someone mutter, "Who is that?" Ward didn't answer them. He stayed a respectful 2 steps behind me. Professional. Alert. We reached the inner checkpoint. Another guard snapped to attention as I approached. "Major," he said crisply. I nodded. He waved us through without hesitation. Only then did my dad speak. "Why didn't you tell me?" His voice was low, not angry, not hurt. Something in between. I kept walking. Steady pace, eyes forward. "You never asked." The silence that followed was heavier than anything he could have said. We reached the parking area near the event venue. I stopped, turned to face him. His expression was unreadable. Shock, maybe confusion. Something else he wasn't ready to name. "I don't understand," he said finally. "You said you worked on base." "You never said." "I told you I was assigned to executive support operations," I said calmly. "I told you I'd been vetted for high-level clearance. I told you I was working directly with senior leadership." He blinked. "You said you were doing administrative work." I said I coordinated logistics for senior command staff. "That's not the same thing." He opened his mouth to respond, then closed it again. He looked down at his retired ID card, still in his hand. E8, Senior Master Sergeant. A rank he'd worked 2 decades to earn. And I was an 04 Major, with a clearance that put me in rooms he'd never see. I thought. He trailed off. "You thought what?" I asked, not unkindly, just directly. He didn't answer. I softened my tone, just slightly. "Dad, I've been in the service for 12 years. I've held 4 different ranks. I've deployed 3 times. I've briefed colonels and generals. I've managed classified operations you'll never hear about. And in all that time, you never once asked me what I actually do. You couldn't talk about it, he said, defensive now. You always said it was classified. Some of it was. Some of it wasn't. But you stopped asking either way. His jaw tightened. I didn't want to pry. It's not prying to show interest in your daughter's career. He looked away, toward the flight line in the distance. Jets taxiing. The steady hum of engines. The life he used to know. I was proud of what I did, he said quietly. 22 years. I earned my stripes. I led good airmen. I did my job right. I know you did. And then you commissioned, and suddenly you were above me overnight. I let that sit for a moment. It wasn't overnight. It took 4 years of training and education before I even put on the uniform. You know what I mean. I did. I knew exactly what he meant. He'd spent 2 decades climbing the enlisted ranks. Every promotion hard-earned. Every evaluation scrutinized. Every leadership role a test of endurance and skill. And I'd walked into the officer corps at 23 with a college degree and a commission. It wasn't the same path. It wasn't the same struggle. But it also wasn't less than. Dad, I said carefully, I respect everything you did. I always have. But my career isn't a reflection on yours. It's separate. It's mine. I never said it wasn't. You didn't have to. He flinched. Just barely. You introduced me as just a civilian. You joked that I pushed papers. You told people I was still figuring things out. You acted like my rank didn't even exist. I didn't mean. I know you didn't mean to hurt me, but you did. The words landed hard. I could see it in his face. He looked at me. Really looked at me, for the first time in years. Not as his daughter. Not as the kid who used to memorize his ribbons. But as Major Sonia Richard. 04. Yankee white clearance. An officer in the United States Air Force. I'm sorry, he said. It wasn't enough. Not yet. But it was something. We should get to the ceremony, I said. He nodded. We walked together in silence. The event was formal, full dress uniforms, speeches, a color guard. I found seats near the back. My dad sat beside me, stiff, uncomfortable. Halfway through, a lieutenant colonel approached. Mara Kim, my direct supervisor. She was calm, precise. The kind of officer who commanded respect without raising her voice. Major Richard, she said, nodding to me. Then she glanced at my dad. Is this your father? Yes, ma'am. This is Thomas Richard, retired Senior Master Sergeant. An honor, Senior, she said, extending her hand. He shook it, clearly caught off guard. Thank you, ma'am. She turned back to me. I wanted to let you know Colonel Mercer asked for you specifically on the next briefing rotation. He's impressed with your work. Thank you, ma'am. I'll be ready. I know you will. She nodded once more to my dad, then walked away. My dad stared after her. Who was that? My supervisor, Lieutenant Colonel Kim. She reports to you? No. I report to her. He processed that. And this Colonel Mercer? Group Commander, 06. His face went pale. You brief colonels? Sometimes generals. He didn't respond. He just sat there, absorbing it. Recalibrating. The ceremony ended. People filtered out. My dad stood slowly, still dazed. As we walked back to the parking lot, he said, "I didn't know." "I know. I should have asked." "Yes." He stopped walking, turned to face me. "I'm proud of you." I wanted to believe him, but the words felt late. Reactionary. "Thank you," I said. We reached his car. He unlocked it, but didn't get in. He stood there, keys in hand, looking at me like he was seeing me for the first time. "Sonia," he hesitated. "Can we start over?" I considered that. Start over like none of it happened? Like years of dismissal could be erased with good intentions? "No," I said honestly. "But we can start from here." He nodded slowly. "Okay. I have to get back to work." "Okay." I turned to leave, then stopped. "Dad." "Yeah?" "Next time you introduce me, use my rank." He swallowed hard. "I will." I walked away. I didn't look back. The weeks after were quiet. My dad didn't call. I didn't reach out. It wasn't hostility. It was space. The kind of distance that lets things settle before they can be rebuilt. I threw myself into work. My assignment kept me busy, coordinating schedules, managing logistics for high-level briefings, ensuring every detail was accounted for. The kind of work that required precision and didn't leave much room for distraction. Which was fine by me. One afternoon, Lieutenant Colonel Kim stopped by my office. She didn't knock. She never did. "Major," she said, leaning against the doorframe. "You've been putting in long hours." I glanced up from my screen. "Just staying on top of things, ma'am." She studied me for a moment. Calm, perceptive. The kind of officer who noticed what people didn't say. "Everything all right?" "Yes, ma'am." "You sure?" I hesitated. "Family stuff?" "Nothing that affects my work." "I didn't say it was affecting your work." She stepped into the office and closed the door behind her. "I'm asking if you're all right." I set down my pen. "I'm fine, ma'am. Just navigating some things." She nodded. "Your father?" I shouldn't have been surprised. Kim was sharp. She probably picked up on the tension during the retirement ceremony. "Yes, ma'am." "He having a hard time with your rank?" "Something like that." She pulled up a chair and sat down. "My father was enlisted, too. Army E7. When I commissioned, he stopped talking to me for 6 months." I blinked. 6 months? Yep. Wouldn't return my calls. Wouldn't come to my promotion ceremony. Finally, my mom made him sit down with me. Took another 3 months before things felt normal again. What changed? He saw me in action. I was deployed, and he came to a unit event. Watched me brief a room full of senior officers. Watched them listen. Afterward, he said, "I didn't know you could do that." And that fixed it? Not immediately, but it started the process. She leaned back. The thing about enlisted leadership is it's earned through time and experience. You prove yourself step by step. Officer leadership, especially at our level, comes with authority right out of the gate. That's hard for some people to accept. I didn't ask for special treatment. I know. And neither did I. But that doesn't change how they see it. She paused. Your father's pride isn't about you. It's about him. About what he thinks he should have been able to achieve. I can't fix that for him. No, you can't. But you can hold your ground. Let him come to terms with it on his own timeline. I nodded. I'm trying. Good. You're doing solid work, Richard. Don't let anyone, family included, make you doubt that. Thank you, ma'am. Just calling to check in. My dad finally called. It was late, after my shift. I was still on base, sitting in my car in the empty parking lot. He picked up on the second ring. Sonia, he said. Finally, about what you said. About seeing you. Okay. I don't think I have. Not really. I've been seeing who I expected you to be, not who you are. I didn't respond. I just let him talk. I went to a luncheon last week. Veterans group. One of the guys mentioned you. Said his son works on the same base. Said you're the major assigned to the high clearance unit. I didn't know that came up. It did. And everyone was impressed. They asked me questions. What you do? How long you've been in? I realized I didn't know how to answer most of them because you never asked. Yeah, he said. I never asked. And that's on me. It is. I'm sorry, Sonia. I really am. I've been so focused on what I didn't do that I couldn't see what you did. I closed my eyes. I don't need you to be impressed by my rank, Dad. I just need you to acknowledge it. I will. I am. Actions, not words. I know. Another silence. Can I ask you something? Sure. What does a major with Yankee white clearance actually do? I smiled. Small. Tired. But real. I coordinate executive level operations. I manage logistics for high-level briefings. I ensure the right people are in the right place with the right information at the right time. That sounds intense. It is. And you're good at it. Yeah, I am. Then I'm proud of you. I believed him this time. Thank you. Can I see you again? Maybe take you to lunch? I'd like that. Good. I'll call you next week. Set something up. Okay, Sonia? Yeah? I'm going to do better. I mean it. I know. We hung up. I sat in the car for a while longer, staring at the empty base around me. It wasn't resolution. Not yet. But it was movement. And sometimes, that's enough. 2 months later, my dad asked if he could visit me on base. Not for an event. Not for a ceremony. Just to see where I worked. I was surprised and cautious. You sure? I asked. It's not glamorous. It's mostly offices and secure spaces you won't be able to enter. I know. I still want to see it. Okay. I'll get you cleared. The paperwork took a week: background check, visitor access request, authorization from my chain of command. When the approval came through, I called him. You're good to go. Meet me at the Visitor Control Center at 1000 hours on Saturday. 1000, got it. Saturday morning, I arrived early, waited by the entrance. Watched him pull into the lot, park, and walk toward me. He was dressed neatly, not in a uniform. He hadn't worn one since he retired, but pressed slacks, a collared shirt, his Air Force veteran ball cap. Morning, he said. Morning. I led him through the visitor check-in process. He handed over his ID, signed the paperwork, received a temporary badge. Stay with me at all times, I said. Don't take photos. Don't discuss anything you see or hear outside this facility. Understood. We walked through the main gate, the same one where the scanner had flashed red months earlier. This time, the guard simply checked our badges and waved us through. My dad looked around, taking it in. The buildings. The people in uniform moving with purpose. The quiet hum of a functioning military installation. "It's bigger than I expected," he said. "Most places are." I took him to the administrative building where my office was located. Not classified, nothing sensitive. Just a workspace. He stood in the doorway, looking at my desk. The nameplate, Major Sonia Richard. The plaques on the wall, the commendations, the framed certificates. "This is yours?" he asked. "This is mine." He stepped inside slowly, like he was entering a museum. He read each certificate. Each award. Each recognition. "You got a Meritorious Service Medal?" "2, actually. The second one's at home." He looked at me. "Your mom and I got one of those for our whole careers combined." "I know." He turned back to the wall. Quiet processing. After a moment, I said, "Come on, I'll show you the rest." We walked through the building. I introduced him to a few colleagues, airmen, NCOs, junior officers. Everyone addressed me the same way. "Good morning, ma'am." "Yes, Major." "Right away, Major." My dad listened. Watched. Absorbed. At one point, a captain approached. "Major Richard, do you have a moment? I need your input on the briefing schedule." "Of course." "This is my father, retired Senior Master Sergeant Richard." The captain extended his hand. "An honor, Senior. Thank you for your service." My dad shook his hand, clearly surprised. "Thank you, sir." We stepped aside to review the schedule. My dad stood nearby, silent, observing. When we finished, the captain nodded. "Thanks, ma'am. I'll adjust accordingly." He walked away. My dad looked at me. "You just told a captain what to do." "I didn't tell him. I advised him. But yes, in this assignment, I coordinate schedules that affect officers at all levels." He shook his head slowly. "I didn't know." "I know." We continued the tour. I showed him the briefing rooms. Once he was cleared to see the conference spaces, the quiet corridors where decisions got made. By the time we finished, it was past noon. "Hungry?" I asked. "Yeah." We went to the base dining facility. I grabbed a tray. He did the same. As we ate, he said, "You carry a lot of weight here." "I do." "Does it get to you sometimes?" But I knew what I was signing up for. He nodded. "I can see that now." "Can you?" "Yeah." He set down his fork. "I see the way people look at you. The way they listen when you talk. The respect you've earned." He paused. "I see you, Sonia. I really do." I believed him. After lunch, we walked back to the parking lot. He stopped by his car, turned to me. "Thank you for letting me see this." "Of course. I mean it. I needed to see it to understand." "I know." He hesitated. "I want to do better. Be better as a father. Then ask me questions. Show interest. Don't assume." "I will." "Good." He opened his car door, then stopped. "Sonia." "Yeah?" "I'm proud of you. I should have said it years ago, but I'm saying it now." "Thank you." He got in his car. I watched him drive away. And this time, when he left, it didn't feel like an ending. It felt like a beginning. 6 months later, we were back at a base checkpoint. Different base, different assignment, same routine. I was being reassigned to another high-clearance unit. My dad asked if he could drive up with me, help me move in. I said yes. We pulled up to the gate at 1,300 hours. A young airman stepped forward. Fresh face. Probably his first duty station. IDs, please. I handed over my credentials. My dad handed over his retired card. The airman scanned mine first. The system beeped. Clearance confirmed. Major, welcome. You're cleared for entry. He looked at my dad. And you, senior? My dad smiled. I'm just here to help remove. She's the one you need to worry about. The airman grinned. Roger that. Enjoy your day, ma'am. We drove through. My dad glanced at me. You noticed I didn't call you a civilian this time. I noticed. Progress. Progress. We pulled into the parking lot near my new building, started unloading boxes. My dad carried the heavy ones without complaint. We worked in comfortable silence. At one point, a colonel walked by, saw me, stopped. Major Richard? Yes, sir. Colonel Adrian Mercer. I'll be your group commander. Welcome to the unit. Thank you, sir. He glanced at my dad. Family helping with the move? Yes, sir. This is my father, retired Senior Master Sergeant Richard. Mercer extended his hand. Good to meet you, Senior. You raised a hell of an officer. My dad shook his hand, straightening slightly. Thank you, sir. She did that on her own. Mercer smiled. I doubt that. He turned back to me. Settle in. We'll do a proper welcome brief on Monday. Yes, sir. He walked away. My dad watched him go, then looked at me. A colonel just said I raised a hell of an officer. He did. And you agreed with me when I said you did it on your own. Because it's true. He shook his head, smiling. You're something else, Sonia. I'm your daughter. Yeah, you are. We finished unloading. I showed him around my new quarters. Small but functional. Enough space for what I needed. He helped me unpack. We set up my desk, hung my uniform, organized my books. When we finished, he sat on the couch. You're going to do great things here. I plan to. I know you will. He paused. And I want to hear about them. All of it. Whatever you can share. I'll tell you. Good. He stood. I should get on the road. Long drive back. Okay. I walked him to his car. He loaded his bag, then turned to me. I love you, Sonia. I love you, too, Dad. And I'm proud of you. I'll keep saying it until you believe me. I believe you. He hugged me. Long, steady. When he pulled back, there were tears in his eyes. Your mom would be so proud. I know. He got in his car, started the engine. As he pulled away, he rolled down the window. Call me when you get a chance. Tell me about the new assignment. I will. He drove off. I stood there, watching until his car disappeared around the corner. Then I walked back inside. My desk was set. My uniform was hung. My space was ready. I had work to do. And for the first time in years, I felt like my father finally understood that. Not just the rank. Not just the clearance. But the weight. The responsibility. The pride. He understood me. And that was enough. 20 years later, epilogue, 20 years later, I stood at the edge of Andrews Air Force Base, watching the sun climb over the flight line. The air was crisp, November early morning, the kind of cold that bites but doesn't quite hurt yet. I was 53 now. Colonel. 06. The eagles on my shoulders felt heavier than the oak leaves ever did. Not from weight, but from everything they represented. 2 decades had passed since that gate incident. Since my father saw my clearance for the first time, since everything broke open between us. A lot had changed. My phone buzzed. A text from my daughter. On our way. Dad's driving. Should be there by 0900. I smiled, typed back, see you soon. My daughter, Captain Elena Richard, 28 years old, 03. Following in my footsteps, a path she'd chosen herself. Not because I pushed her, but because she wanted to serve. She commissioned 5 years ago, made captain last year. She was sharp, driven, everything I'd been at her age, but somehow, steadier, more certain. She'd learned from watching me, from watching her grandfather, from understanding the complex legacy of military service that ran through our family like a current. Her husband, Marcus, was a civilian, a software engineer, good man, patient, supportive. He understood that her career came with demands most spouses didn't deal with: deployments, long hours, missed holidays. He handled it with grace. They were driving up together for today's ceremony. My retirement ceremony. The formal end of 32 years of service. I'd made the decision 6 months ago. Not because I had to. I could have stayed longer, made general, maybe. The stars were within reach if I wanted them, but I didn't. I'd done what I came to do. Led well, served honorably, made a difference in the lives of the airmen under my command. And I was tired. The good kind of tired. The kind that comes from a job well done. My father would be here too. He was 79 now, retired for 26 years. His health had been declining slowly. Nothing catastrophic, just the gradual erosion that comes with age. His back hurt more. His hearing wasn't what it used to be. He moved slower. But his mind was still sharp. And he'd been asking about the ceremony for months. You sure you want me there? He'd asked the first time I mentioned it. Of course I want you there. I just don't want to take up space that should go to someone important. Dad, you're important. You're my father. He'd gone quiet then. Okay. I'll be there. The years between that gate incident and now hadn't been smooth. We'd stumbled, fought, worked through layers of resentment and misunderstanding that ran deeper than either of us had realized. But we'd done the work. Both of us. He'd learned to ask questions, to listen, to celebrate my promotions without making them about his own insecurities. And I'd learned to be patient, to understand that his struggle wasn't personal. It was generational, cultural. The product of a military structure that had defined him for decades. We'd found our way to something real. Not perfect. But honest. I heard footsteps behind me. Turned. Lieutenant Colonel Sarah Chen, my executive officer. 39 years old. Brilliant. The kind of officer who'd make full colonel within 5 years. Morning, ma'am, she said. Morning, Sarah. Final walkthrough. Let's do it. We walked toward the venue. The ceremony would be held in Hangar 3. Large enough for the crowd, formal enough for the occasion. Rows of chairs were already set up, a podium at the front, flags arranged precisely. My shadow box was ready. The display case that would hold my medals. My final rank insignia. My retirement flag. Everything was in place. Looks good, I said. Your remarks are loaded on the teleprompter. General Hartley will present your retirement certificate. Your daughter will assist with the shadowbox presentation. I nodded. Thank you, Sarah, for everything. She smiled. It's been an honor, ma'am. We finished the walkthrough. I headed back to my office one last time. The space was mostly empty now. Boxes packed, personal items removed. Just the essentials left. I sat at my desk, looked around, thought about all the offices I'd occupied over the years. All the bases. All the assignments. 32 years. 4 ranks. 8 duty stations. 3 combat deployments. Countless briefings, decisions, crises managed. I'd worked my way from second lieutenant to colonel, from pushing papers and learning the basics to commanding units and advising generals. I'd held Yankee white clearance for 12 years. Coordinated operations at the highest levels. Briefed presidents. Managed crises that never made the news. And through it all, I'd carried the lessons my father taught me, even the painful ones. Asterisk details matter. Show up. Do the work. Lead by example. Asterisk he'd given me that foundation, even when he couldn't see what I'd built on top of it. My phone rang. My father. Hey, Dad. Hey, kiddo. We just got to the gate. They're checking our IDs. Okay. Elena will meet you and bring you to the hangar. Sounds good. Traffic wasn't too bad. Good. I'll see you soon. Sonia? Yeah? I'm proud of you. I know I've said it 100 times, but I'm saying it again. I smiled. Thanks, Dad. We hung up. I stood, took one last look around my office, then walked out. The hangar filled quickly. Officers, enlisted personnel, civilians, friends, colleagues from across my career. I stood in the back, watching people arrive. Familiar faces, some I hadn't seen in years. Then I saw them. My father, moving slowly but steadily, leaning slightly on a cane. Elena beside him in her dress blues, looking sharp. Marcus next to her in a suit. Elena spotted me, waved. They made their way over. Hi, Mom. Hi, sweetheart. I hugged her. Then Marcus. Then my father. He looked older than I'd expected. Frielier. But his eyes were bright. You ready for this? He asked. As ready as I'll ever be. It's going to be a good ceremony. You've earned it. Thanks, Dad. Elena touched my arm. We should get you to the staging area. General Hartley is almost here. Okay, you guys find your seats. I'll see you after. They headed toward the front row. Reserved seating. Family. I walked backstage. Sarah was waiting. 5 minutes, ma'am. Got it. The ceremony began precisely at 1000 hours. The color guard presented the flags. The national anthem played. Everyone stood. Then General Hartley took the podium. 2 stars. A career officer I'd worked with years ago. Respected. Fair. She spoke about my service, the assignments, the accomplishments, the impact I'd had on the force. It was surreal, hearing my career summarized in 5 minutes. 3 decades reduced to highlights. Then it was my turn. I walked to the podium, looked out at the crowd. Saw my father in the front row, eyes fixed on me. Elena beside him. Marcus. Friends. Colleagues. I took a breath. 32 years ago, I raised my right hand and swore an oath. I was 23. Fresh out of college. Nervous, excited, unsure of what I was getting into. I came from a military family. My father served 22 years as a senior master sergeant. He taught me what it meant to serve, to show up, to do the work, even when it's hard. He gave me a foundation, but I had to build the structure myself. This career hasn't been easy. It's required sacrifice. Long hours, missed birthdays, deployments to places I couldn't name, doing work I couldn't discuss. But it's also given me purpose, community, the honor of leading some of the finest airmen this country has ever produced. I've made mistakes. I've had failures. I've learned hard lessons about leadership, about humility, about the weight of responsibility. But I've also had the privilege of serving at the highest levels, of coordinating operations that mattered, of making decisions that had real impact. And through it all, I've carried the values my father instilled in me: integrity, service, excellence. Dad. I looked directly at him. Thank you for everything you taught me. For the example you set. For learning to see me, not just as your daughter, but as an officer. That meant more than you know. His eyes were wet. He nodded. I continued, to my daughter, Elena. Watching you commission 5 years ago was one of the proudest moments of my life. Not because you followed my path, but because you chose your own. You're an exceptional officer, and I can't wait to see where your career takes you. To my colleagues, my mentors, the airmen I've had the honor of leading, thank you. You made me better. You challenged me. You trusted me with responsibility. I hope I've lived up to it. And to everyone here, thank you for your service, for your dedication, for choosing to wear this uniform and uphold the oath we all share. This isn't goodbye. It's a transition. I'm not leaving the military community. I'm just stepping back to make room for the next generation of leaders. Leaders like my daughter, like the junior officers and NCOs in this room who are the future of this force. So, thank you for everything. It's been the honor of my life. I stepped back. The applause was loud. Long General Hartley presented my retirement certificate. Elena came forward to help with the shadowbox presentation. She handed it to me. My medals arranged precisely. My eagles mounted at the center. The flag folded sharp. I held it. Heavy. Final. The ceremony concluded. People filed out. I stood near the exit, shaking hands, receiving congratulations. My father waited until the crowd thinned. Then he approached. That was a good speech, he said. Thanks. You've done something incredible, Sonia. Built something real. I learned from the best. He smiled. Sad. Proud. I don't know about that, but I'm glad I got to see it. Me, too. Elena joined us. Ready for lunch? We made reservations. Yeah, let's go. We walked out together. The November sun was higher now, warmer. As we crossed the parking lot, my father stopped, looked back at the hangar. You know, he said, I used to think rank was everything. That the higher you climbed, the more you mattered. And now? Now I think it's about what you did with it. How you led. Who you helped. The legacy you leave. That's right. He turned to me. You left a good legacy, Sonia. So did you, Dad. We stood there for a moment. 3 generations. Senior Master Sergeant. Colonel. Captain. All of us connected by service. By the choice to wear the uniform. By the weight of the oath. Come on, Elena said. Let's eat. I'm starving. We got in the car. Marcus drove. Elena navigated. My father sat in the back with me. As we pulled away from the base, I looked out the window, watched the flight line fade into the distance. Watched the jets taxi. Watched the airmen moving with purpose. I'd been part of that world for 32 years. And now I was leaving it. Not with regret. Not with bitterness. But with gratitude. I thought about the gate incident 20 years ago. The moment that changed everything between my father and me. At the time, it felt like an ending. Like something had broken that couldn't be repaired. But it wasn't an ending. It was a catalyst. It forced us to confront the distance between us, to acknowledge the resentment, to do the hard work of rebuilding. And we had. Slowly, imperfectly, but genuinely. The years after were better. Not because the conflict disappeared, but because we learned to navigate it, to talk through it, to meet each other where we were, not where we wished we could be. He came to my promotion ceremonies. Asked about my assignments. Celebrated my successes without diminishing them. And I learned to appreciate his perspective. To understand that his struggle wasn't about me. It was about his own journey, his own reconciliation with a career that had defined him. We found peace. Not perfection. But peace. And when Elena commissioned, he was there. Front row. Proud. No jokes, no dismissals. Just genuine pride. You're going to do great things, he told her after the ceremony. I hope so, Grandpa. I know so. You've got good examples to follow. He looked at me when he said it, and I knew he meant it. The restaurant was busy. We got a table near the window, ordered food, talked, laughed. My father told stories from his time in service. Elena shared updates from her current assignment. Marcus talked about his work. It felt normal. Easy. Like a family that had finally found its rhythm. At one point, my father raised his glass. A toast. To Colonel Sonia Richard. 32 years of exceptional service. And to the next chapter. We clinked glasses, drank. What is the next chapter? Elena asked. I'm not sure yet, I said. Maybe teaching. Maybe consulting. Maybe just taking some time to figure out who I am without the uniform. You'll figure it out, my father said. You always do. Thanks, Dad. After lunch, we walked outside. The day was clear, beautiful. My father pulled me aside. Can we talk? Just for a minute? Of course. We walked a little ways from the others, found a bench, sat down. I've been thinking about something, he said. What's that? That day at the gate, 20 years ago. I remember it. I was ashamed that day. Not of you. Of myself. For not seeing what was right in front of me. I know. But it was the best thing that could have happened, because it woke me up. Made me realize I was losing you. Not because you were drifting away, but because I was refusing to see you. We both made mistakes, Dad. Maybe. But I made more. He looked at me. I want you to know, these past 20 years, watching you rise, watching you lead, watching you become the officer you are, it's been the greatest privilege of my life. My throat tightened. Dad, let me finish. He took a breath. I don't have a lot of time left. I know that. My body is slowing down. And I need you to know before it's too late that I'm proud of you. Not because of your rank. Not because of your clearance. But because of who you are. The integrity. The strength. The kindness. Tears stunned my eyes. Thank you. You're the best thing I ever did. You, and the example I set that made you want to serve. That's my legacy, and I'm grateful for it. I hugged him. Long tight. When we pulled apart, his eyes were wet, too. Come on, he said. Let's get back before they think we got lost. We walked back to Elena and Marcus. My father looked tired, but content. You okay, Grandpa? Elena asked. Yeah, kiddo. Just soaking it all in. We said our goodbyes. My father hugged me one more time. Call me later. Let me know you got home safe. I will. They drove off. I stood in the parking lot, watching the car disappear. Elena came up beside me. You okay, Mom? Yeah. Just processing. It was a good ceremony. It was. And Grandpa seemed really happy. He was. She paused. Can I ask you something? Always. Do you regret it? Any of it? I thought about that. The deployments. The missed moments. The sacrifices. No, I said. I don't regret it. It was hard, but it was worth it. Good. Because I don't want to regret it either. I looked at her. 28, Captain. My daughter, following her own path. You won't, I said. As long as you stay true to yourself. As long as you lead with integrity. As long as you remember why you started. I will. I know you will. We stood there for a moment. Mother and daughter. Colonel and Captain. 2 generations of service, 2 paths, connected by the same oath. Come on, I said. Let's go home. We got in the car, drove away from the base, away from the ceremony, away from the uniform. And as we drove, I thought about the gate, the scanner, the moment my father saw the presidential seal. That moment had defined so much. But it hadn't defined everything. What came after mattered more. The work we did to rebuild. The understanding we reached. The peace we found. That was the real story. Not the conflict, but the resolution. Not the betrayal, but the healing. And now, 20 years later, as I closed this chapter of my life, I realized something. The gate wasn't the moment everything changed. It was just the moment everything became visible. The change had been happening all along. In every promotion, every assignment, every choice I made to show up and do the work. The gate just forced us to acknowledge it. And acknowledging it, painful as it was, had set us both free. My father free to see me as I truly was. Me free to stop waiting for his permission to be proud of myself. That was the gift. That was the legacy. Not the rank. Not the clearance. Not the ceremony. But the understanding that respect isn't given. It's recognized. And I'd earned it long before that scanner flashed red. I'd earned it through service, through leadership, through the quiet, steady accumulation of excellence. And now, 32 years later, I could finally rest in that knowledge. I was Colonel Sonia Richard, and I'd served well. That was enough. More than enough. It was everything. So that's how everything shifted for us. Not with a fight, but with clarity. I stopped shrinking myself. And he finally had to see who I'd become. What about you? Have you ever had to stand up to someone who kept you stuck in a version of yourself you'd outgrown? Did they change, or did you have to walk away? Drop your experience in the comments, someone else might need to hear it. And if you want more true stories about boundaries, respect, and owning your worth, make sure to like the video, subscribe, and turn on notifications. I'll see you in the next one.